Bill Graham, and then to Pastor Cal Hampton of Second Mile Church. Thank you to all the members, but especially to those who are leading the Ministerial Association. As I mentioned, you all are really making an impact in our community by being active and being visible and bringing the gospel of Jesus to our community, which is so, so critical. This breakfast would not be possible without somebody organizing and putting the pieces together. So I want to say thank you to Bill Harpel. Bill, yes. If you know Bill, you know he is always working at a fast pace. He is going from one point to another at a brisk, what I call a run at my age, but he is continuing to work and do great things in our city. So Bill, thank you for what you're doing every day. And then he pulled together a magnificent team to help coordinate this breakfast, get the invitations out, and just make sure things were done properly, or as the Bible says, decently and in order. And so I want to say thank you to Laura Boyd with Blanchfield Army Community Hospital, and for your work. Laura, where are you? There she is, right in front of me. Thank you, Laura, and thank you to Misty Leish, who leads our effort locally and then has done great work statewide. So we want to say thank you to Misty as well, and you'll hear more from her in a moment. Let me recognize some folks in the audience. I want to recognize my wife, who you've already had introduced to you, but also our Mayor Pro Tem for our city, Councilperson Wanda Smith, is here. Councilperson Smith, if you would please stand up so we can recognize you. She's raising her hand. If you watch the council meetings at all, and I discourage you from doing that, if you watch the council meetings, she sits immediately to my right, or if you're facing the council, on your left. But it's so nice to have an anointed woman of God sitting there knowing she's praying and thinking about what she's going to say. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Smith, for the work that you're doing for our city as well. Are there any other council members here? I didn't think I saw any. Okay. And then one other person that we need to recognize, because he has a birthday today. He turns 80 today, and that's Dr. Anderson Grant. Dr. Grant, where are you? That's enough. Sit down over there. Okay. I should have known. I should have known. We have a room. All of you are important to what we do, every single one of you. But you're going to hear from one of our experts in our state, really in our nation, Dr. Monty Burks. You are our honored guest, sir, and thank you for being here this morning, fighting the traffic, as we've talked about. But thank you for lending your talent and your time and certainly your expertise to help us understand what more we can do as a community, and then we'll recognize another group at the very end. So I will end, as I began, by saying thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a vital part of our community, for helping us tell the story of the city of Clarksville, Montgomery County, and what we can do to end the epidemic of suicide. Not enough to slow it down, not enough to make the numbers go down and decrease what's happening. Our goal is to end the scourge of suicide. Thank you, and God bless you.
I usually check with the mayor. We shop at the same place to get suits, and that we don't want to look like we're in a uniform on the fourth floor when we're coming. So I got the memo, Mayor. I want to invite Misty Leish to come forward. She is a Robertson County young lady, but she is one of our founding members of the mayor's suicide prevention program that was stood up in 2018. The VA pushed across a programming to, one, start with communities. Clarksville was the only city in the state of Tennessee to stand this program up, and I don't think any more have come about, but I'm not interested. That's not nice, but I'm not really, don't care if they did or didn't. It's their loss. And then she was Executive Director of TSPN, Tennessee Suicide Prevention, and co-chair of the state, and is co-chair at that point of the state. So I'm going to shut up. She's been a wonderful blessing, and come forward, young
lady. That was loud. Hello and good morning. My name is Misty Light. I am here today as a community advocate. I am here today as someone who has spent the last 20 years in suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. I am here today as a survivor of suicide loss. For those of you that may not know, I lost my grandfather, who was an Army veteran, to suicide a number of years ago, and it has always impacted my very, very large family. And I do believe that is part of what fuels my desire to end suicides in our state. So thank you, Bill Harpel, for your leadership, and thank you, Mayor Pitts, for the warm welcome. And thank you to the incredible team of the Clarksville-Montgomery County Suicide Prevention Alliance. We have met for 4 years now, I believe. We started in 2018, and it was a small group of us, and we would come together and talk about, what can we do in our community to end suicides. At the time, I was working with organizations across the state to help them implement an initiative called the Zero Suicide Initiative. And it looks at the policies and procedures within an organization. It looks at the organizational culture. It looks at how well individuals are trained, how competent they feel, how confident they are in being able to identify individuals with suicide. And I say all of that to kind of bring it home and ask you all to think about, what training have you had? Probably not a lot. This isn't a topic that is well discussed in our communities. We're starting to hear more and more about it now. But I want you all to know that there is help. Help is here. Hope is available. And that there are a number of resources right here in the community available to anyone and everyone who may want them. And so you are here today because you have some interest in suicide prevention. Perhaps you've been affected by it. Perhaps you too are a survivor of suicide loss. Perhaps you know someone that maybe is a survivor of an attempt, or you know someone that has maybe had thoughts. Maybe someone in your congregations, maybe someone sitting at the table next to you. There is help available. There are, again, I will say this a number of times, there are resources, there are trainings. And when we think about suicide prevention, suicide is scary. It is life or death. But the hope is that it is preventable. Suicides are preventable. And when we think about the area of suicide in our communities, there's 3 buckets. There's suicide prevention, there's suicide intervention, and there's suicide postvention, what we do in the aftermath, after we lose someone to suicide. And within each of those 3 buckets, there are opportunities to help save someone's life. And I know that may sound a little odd, especially whenever we think about postvention, but there are a number of initiatives and techniques that we can deploy to help prevent future loss to suicide when we do a postvention correctly, okay? What we're hoping today is that we can initiate change within you, we can initiate change within the community we live in. Bill conveniently left out that I'm a Clarksville native. I was born and raised right here in this town, across the river though. I won't tell you what school, but it's not hard to figure out. So my heart is here. This is where my passion is. It's here in this community, and it's in the suicide prevention world. When we think about resources that are available, as you walked in on the registration table, I thought I brought it up here, there's this wonderful little card that has some really incredible resources on there, and so I do want to take a moment and highlight that. You will begin to hear more and more about 988. A show of hands, who has already heard of 988? Great. That is fantastic. So for those of you that may not be aware, there is a new mental health and suicide crisis hotline number. So just like we have 911 for medical emergencies, we now have 988 for mental health and suicide emergencies. The FCC passed this in July of this year after a lot of advocacy and nationwide work. They finally realized, oh yeah, in the moment of a crisis, it might not be easy to remember, a 10-digit phone number like 1-800-273-TALK. And so in efforts of eliminating stigma around mental health and mental wellness and suicide prevention, they finally decided, well, let's create a 3-digit emergency number for mental health, and that's what 988 is. And it's available right now. It is live and active right now. And anyone can call it. If you're concerned about a friend or a loved one or a neighbor or a coworker, you can call 988 and get assistance on how to help that person. It doesn't have to just be for the person who may be in crisis, okay? So on those cards, you'll see 988. You'll also see the crisis text line, which is a free confidential service as well, where you can text the letters TN for Tennessee to the number 741-741. And again, immediate help, confidential, connected to a trained crisis counselor immediately. So there are resources. I also want you to know that, and a lot of that is for the intervention bucket, right? We're trying to help intervene. In the prevention side, I would highly, highly encourage everyone to go through suicide prevention training. They're available online, they're available in person, and you can find them for free. And there are different types of trainings, whether it's a 1-hour question, persuade, refer, where we teach people how to question somebody about suicidality, how to persuade them to stay alive and get help, and what resources are available and how to make an appropriate referral to those resources. All the way to a 2-day intervention, and it's called ASSIST, Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. There are a number of organizations across the state that provide these trainings for free. Family and Children Services in Nashville, the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Tennessee Department of Health, and the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services all have access to these incredible resources that they can bring to you at no charge. When we think about postvention, I often think that is where, that's when individuals, they have the aha moment. Oh, I have been affected by suicide. Oh, this does happen in our communities, right? And that's when we see a lot of individuals have the desire to then become trained. And friends, let me tell you, we do not have to wait until we have been affected by another loss to get trained and to make a difference. You are all here today because you have the influence, you have the congregations, you have the people that you reach out and that you can touch and help become educated. You have the audience that you can help destigmatize help-seeking behavior. You can help destigmatize suicide prevention. You can encourage people to reach out and to get help. So without further ado, I would like to bring up a dear friend of mine and a former colleague, Dr. Monty Burks. Dr. Burks and I am an emeritus member of the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, and about a year ago, the Advisory Council of the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network approved the creation of a faith-based suicide prevention task force. So the Advisory Council and the organization listened to the needs of the community and said, okay, faith leaders are wanting resources, let's do something about that. And so Dr. Burks will talk about the goals of the faith-based suicide prevention task force and be able to tell you all the wonderful information. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to bring up Dr. Monty Burks.
Good morning. So it's an awesome honor and privilege to stand before you today to talk about issues in our communities. But there's something else we're going to talk about today. Who is Ground Zero? What does Ground Zero look like? And what are you going to do about it? We often have conversations and meetings on top of meetings. As you can tell, I grew up in the church. We have a meeting on top of a meeting to support a meeting because we need a meeting to do the meeting work in the community. By the end of the meeting, the people that we needed to help have moved on to another resource. But I'm here to talk to you today about the task before you and the work that you can do. I'll share a little bit about myself before I go into our work. I'm a person that's in long-term recovery from substance misuse, substance use disorder, and a mental health diagnosis. March 3rd, I celebrated 22 years free from the bondage that almost destroyed me and my family. In this space, my vulnerability is my strength. Me being able to have conversations with you, understanding that how you look at me is not different than how you're supposed to look at yourself. Understanding that I am your brother. I may be a little shorter than you. I may be a little taller than you. If I am taller than you, I'm going to pray for you today. But our differences are what makes us strong. Our multiple denominations and belief systems pulling together to fight a common enemy. And the biggest enemy we have in this space is ignorance and lack of work. Being part of a task force of people of faith, that our first thing we did was sit and listen to each other so I could hear from you and you could hear from me how I see the issues, how I define the issues, and find common ground, because the common ground that we find is what will help people survive. We know about 988, we know about resources, you know about resources, but what about the people that have been beaten down so much by everything else that they don't have the strength to look up and see the resources? That is where we, as people of faith, come in and are most important. Listen, I don't know what you believe, and that is not my concern right now. I'm a man of God. I grew up in the Collegiate denomination. My mother was Collegiate, and my father was Catholic. I saw the hands up. If you know, then you know. There's an acronym for that. I can't say it right now. I forgot what it is, but if you know, then you know. But the diversity of the beautiful traditions that I was able to experience helped me understand that sometimes traditional methods need some unconventional resources to help people. Did you know that there are over 12,000 different faith and religious institutions in the state of Tennessee? There are over 3.6 million Tennesseans that attend congregational services every single week in our state. That's more than half of our state's population. You can't tell me that we don't have enough resources sitting in the pews of our sanctuaries to at least provide one person to help one person when one person is struggling. People need a ground zero. People need a place where people are willing to understand person-first language, where people understand that the right questions might give a person that much time for the right people to come in and intervene. You do not have to have an acronym or a professional title behind your name to love someone and to just meet them where they are. But what it would be great if you had was the right information and tools so that when you speak to someone, you're not speaking at someone at their most vulnerable point. So what is the purpose of this task force? I've got so many ways I can go with this right now. But the number one purpose is to train clergy, to build best practices, also build culturally competent best practices. I understand that our traditions are different. Our goal is to not interfere with tradition, but to supplement tradition with resource. There is power in our denominations. There is power in our belief systems. There's power in our traditions. Giving our faith communities tools, translating those tools so our faith communities can use the same tools as our evidence-based community, because it's the same trainings, to be on the ground with people when they need it. Did you know that a person will go to a clergy member before they go to a therapist? Did you know a young child will approach a Sunday school teacher before they approach a first grade teacher? The truth is there. What do we do with the truth? Misty, my esteemed colleague Misty, who is my forever colleague, mentioned earlier some of the trainings provided, but I want to reiterate and talk about most trainings. ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences Syndrome, right in the pews of our sanctuaries, understanding how building strong brains can create strong adults. Trauma-informed care, understanding that our words are important. Person first, people-centered language when talking to people, understanding that just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean that it didn't happen to them. I know that trauma, 3 E's of trauma: event, experience, and effect. And all 3 of those can be interchanged, but the events don't change, but how we experience events does, which has a lasting, long adverse effect on any of us. Assist and QPR. QPR is one of my favorite trainings because it's a very, very unique and easy training for our clergy to experience. Question, persuade, refer. We all have plenty of questions, but what about a non-trauma informed question thrown at someone instead of a very culturally competently delivered question that's goal is to persuade someone to just hang out with you for a moment so we can refer them to the right resource? Remember, our goal is to keep people alive long enough to get them to the right resource. Also, some of the addiction trainings we provided for our faith community are sexual addiction and compulsion, gambling addiction, and the addicted brain. These are partnership trainings that we do with TSPN in conjunction with TSPN and our department, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. You're asking me, why would we do all of these trainings in our faith communities? Why not? Team, I called you team because we are in a fight for our people. We have to take the fight at different levels, different spaces, different places, different times. We need the uniqueness of your tradition to be able to reach more people. Why? Because of the 12,000 faith and religious institutions, that means we have 12,000 leaders across our state that are people that can reach people that I can't reach. I don't step foot in all those congregations. I don't have the manpower to do it as an individual. However, I can help with trainings that can reach all 12,000 of those institutions that might be able to reach those 3.5 and 3.6 million Tennesseans that attend those congregational services. We must remember that ministry doesn't have to only happen inside of the 4 walls of an institution. The purpose of the trainings and the partnerships with local and state government is for us to get on the same page about this. We have a duty, an incumbent duty, to save our communities. Sometimes the resources may be different. I'm an avid martial arts practitioner. I was raised in a martial arts gym. I'm a former professional fighter. I still train, actually train with some people here in Clarksville. I have taken the opportunities that I have with former and current professional fighters to talk about mental health, suicide prevention, and addiction. You'd be amazed at how those communities gravitate to those conversations because guess what? We're in a fight that affects all communities and all people in our states, from the littlest ones we have to our most seasoned saints in the community. You see what I did right there? It can also happen inside, and if it has to stay inside, let us help you strengthen the ministry that you do inside. Realistically, some of our congregations in Tennessee have 5 to 7 people. That does not mean that that's not a powerful ministry. It means, again, people with the resources can deliver resources to that 3 to 5 to 7 member congregation so they can be part of a post-vention plan, so they can understand suicide, what it means, understand that it's not those people, this is our people. Ministry takes many faces. I have seen powerful ministries of one person, and I've seen powerful ministries that are 30,000 plus. But the power that we have in the pews of our sanctuaries and diverse religious institutions is insurmountable. I'll tell you about a few different projects that I oversee and how we work together with TSPN with the with the ultimate goal of turning our congregations into mini hospitals. When I say mini hospitals, people work in the healthcare community. This is not to interfere with your hospital space or your program. I'm going to tell you something that you might not know. Did you know that the faith community is older than the hospital that you work in? The faith community is older than any institution that any one of you in here work for. And the faith community is going to be here when you're gone. That means it is our responsibility to train the faith community to be the resources that we might not have the capacity to be, a resource that might last way longer than you live, and also a legacy resource that can be part of what you did in your professional space to save somebody else's child. If you don't understand it, I'll say it to you now. The ministries that are provided, somebody prayed for them 100 years ago, and here they are now. They've come to fruition as a resource through TSPN, through Mirror Lake, through all of these different entities. Here they are, right in your face. That's why I asked you earlier, and I asked you, are you ready? What are we going to do? Part of the projects I oversee, we have 4 different projects. I have 4 faith-based community coordinators that work closely with TSPN. Each one of those faith-based coordinators are distributed across Tennessee. We have 3 grand divisions. East, Middle, West, and Shelby County has its own faith-based coordinator. Our job is to train congregations on how to be recovery friendly and to understand mental health and also to understand suicidal ideation, and how to build resources to serve their communities. We have over 1,000 congregations that we've trained and certified as recovery congregations. Doesn't cost you anything. Clergymen here, clergy women here. If your congregation wants to work with us or train with us, all you have to do is call me. It's not going to cost you anything but time. Remember, these trainings are going to help save people's lives. We have 2 different levels of the Project Lifeline. There are 10 Lifeline coordinators that are distributed across Tennessee. They're all people that are in long-term recovery from substance use, substance misuse, and/or mental health diagnosis. Their job is to go out and train the communities, all community endeavors, network, asset map, pull people together with the goal of reducing the stigma related to the disease of addiction, the stigma related to mental health issues, and the stigma related to conversations around suicide. To date, our Project Lifeliners have provided over 8,000 trainings across the state of Tennessee, dealing mainly with reducing stigma. We have 10 other Project Lifeliners that work in the 13, now 11 distressed counties across the state. Some of those distressed counties are close here. Their job is access to resources, so if you're a clergy that serves, or you work in circuits, or you have other counties that you work with, please reach out to me. And lastly is our Collegiate recovery initiatives. We have trained over 800 recovery allies on campuses across the state. We have 35 different recovery-friendly college campuses across the state. Each one of those colleges, we've provided a QPR training. Why would that be important on a college campus? Why would you want to talk about these issues on a college campus? Well, you have 17 to 21-year-olds that are leaving your house, and the structured community that you have given them might only be a phone call structured community now because they have the rest of the world ready to congregate. We have so many wonderful young people that reach out to us on our Collegiate Recovery Initiative workshops to talk about suicide, to talk about things they've read on social media, to talk about what do I do when I hear a friend of mine say these things. We, as resources in the know, understand that, wow, we can call a phone number, we can reach out to a hotline, we can reach out to a website, but what about people who don't know? What about the most vulnerable of us? As I close, I want to say this, and I want to say how important vulnerability is in building what we're trying to build. We want to put together a task force that can dig way deeper than I can. We need a task force that is culturally driven from the community with the goal of utilizing community-based assets to reach people so that we can save people. I believe in each one, teach one. I believe that each one of us has a purpose. While we may do it different, we may sing different, we may praise different. Lord knows I grew up in the Church of God in Christ, and my father was Catholic. You want to talk about 2 entirely different sermon and musical series that I grew up in. Actually, in my Catholic tradition, we're 30 to 35 minutes and we were done. In my Collegiate tradition, 2 hours was halftime. If you've never been, go visit. Just be prepared for a long Sunday service. But through building blocks and cultural competency, I've been able to work with each one of those different denominations to build resources according to their tradition so the people in their pews can understand it from their leadership. That's the power that we talk about. Now back, I wanted to share a little bit else about me and my journey. I've traveled across the state. I've been in every single county in this state and worked with different clergy. We do talk different, we do eat different, we do sing different, but we are fighting the exact same enemies. I've traveled in my professional career to 41 different states across the United States of America. I've worked with different presidents, I've spoken in front of different presidents. We may all be different, but we're fighting the exact same enemies. So my words to you are this. If you would like to join our task force, please reach out to me, Misty, or Bill, or one of your local counterparts, and let's start working. If we do nothing, then nothing gets done. Faith community, you have been on the forefront of every single major change in this country since its inception. So now we have a task, and I pray that you do that task with me as a man of faith. I say thank you for letting me come up here and hang out with you today. I also had more bacon today than I've eaten in a very long time. So I hope the traffic dies down on my way home so I can make it home. Thank you.
I've got something for you. Laura, where's is he in this group or is he showing? Oh, you can't say anything, you're alive. Well, don't go anywhere. You're not leaving, we've still got more bacon, sir. So, please. Let's, again, hear from Misty and Dr. Burks. Thank y'all so much for coming. I'm going to just share with you, I had a chance to travel with the two of those into Washington, and we spent a couple of days up there in some training, and of course, Dr. Burks talked about how we could eat really hot food. So he picked the place that we went, and he put the bib on and that, and I've never seen a man start sweating so fast, so quickly. And the rest of us who bragged not wanting hot food just sat there and watched, and it was very, very enjoyable, and I guess, sir, I haven't forgotten that yet. There's one other something that we wanted to accomplish today, and Mayor Pitts had it on his things to do list. The Mayor's Challenge was stood up in 2018, and you will be amazed at how many people are still on the committee in 2022. We want to recognize them very quickly because I know everybody's got things waiting on them to get back to work or to the church or wherever you are. But I'd like, I'm going to call each of the members out, and if the mayor would come forward, we're going to just give them a little token of our appreciation for having kept me propped up since 2018 on that side of it. So I guess Laura's, where's Misty? Misty, could you come forward and help with the mayor and get, I'll call their name, and then if they'll come, and if you're smart, you'll realize I'm kind of doing it alphabetically. So Laura Boyd, who is behind the camera, you've got one. Just if she walked out of there, she'd kill me. But I wanted to say thank you. Laura has been one of our original groups, and it's wonderful to have her in our midst for many, many reasons. I'd like to call up Caroline Kova, who is a VA individual that's with us. She has not been with us as long as some of the others because she migrated over from, Nevada, New Mexico? Yeah, Las Vegas, I think is where she came from, the way she, on that side. But we appreciate all she's done. Linda Douglas, where's Linda? Oh, there she comes. Linda is with the Montgomery County VSO and is kind of the person that keeps the director, Andrew Kester, in line. But she is a wonderful person to get to be with, and she, again, is an original member. And I'd like to go ahead and get Brian Flattery. Where is Brian? There you go. Brian has been one of those from the very beginning, an original member. He's makes his profession in the line. He's with Reboot Recovery prior military service, and just a heck of a nice person. Yeah. Oh, okay. No. See, he's working on the mayor already. So the next is Bill Graham. There's Bill. Reverend Graham, 30 years in uniform, calls First Baptist Church home. There's nothing he's not willing to do. So all you got to do is kind of drop a hint, and guess whose arm goes up. But he's just a kind, sweet man, and we appreciate him hanging in there with us. We have a newer addition, Mike Hunter. Where is Mike? There, come forward. Mike is in our Parks and Rec department with public relations, marketing, and that. Prior 6 years military service, flew drones, has been deployed, and we're glad he came to work for the city, and he reached out to us and wanted to be part of it, and we were tickled with that. So thank you, Michael. Tiffany Reed Johnson. If you hear some singing, her sister will be singing praises to her from the back as she walks up here. This is a young lady that is in a private mental health practice, but she also volunteers a lot. 2 or 3 Saturdays ago, we were over at the L&N Railroad all morning, and it was pretty hot, and she spoke on behalf of the Alliance for us over there, and we passed a lot of gun locks out and did a lot of fun things. So Tiffany, you're a peach, and thank you. I wish I could say that about your sister, but we'll keep moving. Her sister works in second floor in community housing, so it's fun to brag on her as Tiffany shows us that diamond ring on her finger, so we'll go from there. Next, Andrew Kester, and I will tell you up front, this young man has really been with us. He's, in essence, the co-chair of it. He works for the county, but he works for veterans. He goes on hunting trips, takes his computer, and as soon as the day is over, he pops it out and starts checking the VA for the group of veterans that were asked to come on there, whether he's in Montana, Arizona, or wherever. He's working when he's not hunting or making knives or those on. But he's retired and lives here in Clarksville, where really lives in Montgomery County. He doesn't live in the city. Misty Life, I think we've met. All you have to do is turn around. Another blessing. I did forget that she is from Montgomery County, but I get on her because of Springfield. So, but she's been a real blessing, and we want to thank her for having her. Cara Merriman, where is Cara Merriman? Well, there she comes. This young lady has been with us from day one, and she is clinical supervisor with the crisis services at Centerstone. And I will add one other real important piece to what she has done for the city of Clarksville. She has trained several groups of police department in CIT, crisis intervention training. And that's now the city has officers on duty 24 hours a day that are trained in mental health issues to respond to what is basically been identified as possibly more of a mental health issue than a different type, and she is magnificent with it. She got asked, and they kind of voluntold some officers to go, and by the end of the training, they were telling their buddies and coworkers, you better get it first chance you get it. I feel better about being a police officer riding in this car because I'm better trained at something. So thank you so much, Cara. Let's see. The next one, I hope you've got plenty of coffee. No. Sherry Pickering. I rag on Sherry Pickering all of the time. She is the executive director of the Montgomery County Veterans Coalition. I will tell you, she took about 2 cents. Did you have 2 cents then? I doubt it. You might not have. She's married to a retired veteran who is a in the ministry. But she has built this organization with now over 160 or so different groups in it, and she is really stretching the limits of what anybody would have ever thought that would have happened. So this community-owned Sherry, another round of applause. Now, Joey Smith, the executive director of the Montgomery County Health Department. Now, there's another jewel. Joey is a statistics guy, and he likes to sing on Facebook. So, with his daughter, though, I think that's the bright spot. He is just a huge, when COVID got in play, he was helping so much with the city and the county. They had a coalition that met. He always kept suicide in the back of his mind and us going and stuff. So there again, you know, you never know who you're going to get to meet when you finally raise your hand and said, I'd like to be in there. And I will tell you, it's been an award, rewarding all the way. Richard Stevens, somebody, maybe have to help him up. He finally retired from something, but he didn't retire from us. Richard's a former publisher, editor of several newspapers across the Midwest, and then ended up in Clarksville, stayed here, and came to work for the city in our public relations. And when he finally retired, it's been a real blessing to have had him. He writes, he knows, has experiences about mental health issues, and it's been wonderful. The last one that I want to recognize is one of our newer ones, Charlie Washington. Where's Charlie? This light will just literally wear you out. Charlie is with the U.S. Army ID Readiness Program and sexual abuse and suicide, and he's new somewhat, but he's always there when you're doing something. And it's really been a real honor. And he's another one that just appeared and said, I'd like to be on the committee, and we didn't turn him away, so we're very proud that he came to be with us and stuff. Mayor, that is, I'd like to, is Monty's over there? Dr. Burke, could you come up and let the mayor present you with just a little token? We picked him to where he could put it on the dash of his car because his office is full of awards. So he was going to need somewhere. So let's one more round for the membership. I want to thank the caterers. Do we have anybody have any questions? There's a couple of folks that I didn't let you know. When you go to these type of events, Mayor and Misty, thank you so much. You'll see, usually with the green lanyard on, we've had people through, and I didn't announce it soon enough. But if you have any questions or issues, if you'll spot one of them, there are resources, and they can help get you, or they can also provide you with whatever resources you may want to have. It's been a fun couple of weeks with this project. The mayor is a very kind and patient person. And I suspect it's because his wife makes him patient on that side. But this has been a real pleasure. I appreciate to the vendors. They will be here just a little bit. So, and I say vendors, they're not vendors. To the resources that are available from Veterans Coalition to SAFE to, you don't realize how lucky we are when an issue comes up. You can pick the phone up and call somebody. It's not passing the buck, it's getting the buck done for that soldier or that family member that needs the help. And you've got the main phone answerer sitting right in here with what they do. And of course, then we're so blessed to have Fort Campbell, and I'm sure that just woke some folks up on Facebook watching. This is all I've got. If there's nothing else, thank you for making this a great Tuesday morning. I hope you continue to have a blessed day. And if you need anything, holler at us. Thank you.